We have all heard how important location, location, location is in real estate, and we've all heard that kitchens and bathrooms sell homes. But once you have a buyer and once you are ready to sign the dotted line, how do you guarantee that the appraisal will come back in your favor? Well, we're going to talk about the 5 things that appraisers look at specifically and what you should be doing in order to get top dollar for your appraisal. So the very first thing an appraiser will be considering with valuing your home is that curb appeal. Specifically though, they're gonna go deeper than what a buyer would do. They're gonna be looking for signs of wear and tear, for things that are cause for concern, especially when it comes to the safety of your home. After all, if your home doesn't appear to be well maintained from the outside, they're gonna wonder what else could be the problem when they get inside. So they're gonna look for things like holes or cracks in the exterior, on the roof. They're going to be looking for things that maybe are a red flag that if your buyer missed, the appraiser is definitely going to look over, and it's going to have a negative impact on your home. So when you are trying to sell your home, you need to pay attention to not only the curb appeal from the perspective of the buyer, but you need to also be aware of any cracks or holes, things that can cause concern for an appraiser or an inspector. So definitely take care of those things as you are doing a refresh on your home. Because after all, it does show that you were not actually maintaining your home while you lived there, which just means you've been neglectful. So now that they've looked at the outside of your home, and we know that it's important to put some money into the exterior of your home, not only for the buyer, but for the appraisal, we're moving inside. So the very next thing, number 2, for an appraiser, when they're looking at your home, they're going to verify the square footage. That's right. The square footage that you have listed, they're going to make sure that is in fact the square footage of your home. So they're going to go room by room and they're going to verify that everything lines up, everything is matching with what you have on the market. What's extremely important to note here is that you, as the seller, have to also make sure that if you've added square footage to your home, that you have the proper permits in place, because what you don't want to do is not have your permitting, not have that registered with the county, with your local government, because unfortunately that means you will not be able to claim that square footage as livable square footage, and your appraiser will know about it. So what you have to make sure you do before you ever put your home on the market, and quite frankly, before you go through with your renovation, is make sure you're doing the proper permitting. I know that's red tape that some of us don't want to jump through and don't want to hassle with, but in the long run, having extra square footage on your home is extremely valuable, especially if you live in an area where homes have larger square footage, and this could be a really big boost for the value of your home. We're talking tens of thousands of dollars depending on the amount of square footage you're adding to your existing structure. So after your appraiser has verified the square footage of your home, they're going to move on to number 3, which is checking the interior of your home. What does that mean? Well, they're going to make sure that things like your walls don't have cracks or holes in them. They're going to be checking the condition of your windows and your doors and your lighting fixtures, things that people would use all the time. They're going to be looking for, again, a neglectful homeowner who didn't do the proper maintenance. Usually that's a red flag to an appraiser, because banks do not, quite frankly, want to back a home that has not been treated well, that could have more underlying issues. So if you're thinking to yourself, what can you do to improve this metric? How can you make sure that you get good marks on the interior of your home? Make sure first and foremost your home is clean and well clean, because again, they're going to be checking windows. They're going to be right there on your windowsill seeing all the dust or bugs or whatever you've got lying around. And also make sure things are accessible. You don't want a bunch of clutter in your home so that they struggle to get around. You also want to pay attention to little things like rugs on carpet. Believe it or not, that's usually a red flag to an appraiser, even if you just like the way it looks, because it typically means that the seller is trying to hide something, right? When your first inclination be to think there must be staining on the carpet that they don't want other people to see. I know that's what I think when I see rugs on carpet personally. And again, there may be people who just love the look, but as a forewarning, if you're going to get an appraisal, I would recommend you at least remove the rugs temporarily so they do not think negatively of your home and of the cleanliness of your home. And another thing you can do to help with your appraisal is when you talk about the interior and you talk about walls and things like that, again, make sure you're patching up any holes, even if it was just a few nails left by some pictures you had up at one point. Make sure you patch over all of that. You don't want things that are unsightly hanging out, but also paint your walls. A fresh coat of paint can go a very long way, especially if you have some really bold, darker colors that tend to make things feel a little more closed in and claustrophobic. You want your home to feel spacious. You want it to feel extra luxurious. So the way to do that is to use light colors when possible. So definitely go through the trouble of spending a few $100s painting those bold walls. So the fourth thing your appraiser is going to look at would be any sort of improvements that have been done to your home since you've lived there. Now here is where you really need to be detailed, and you as the seller need to help the appraiser. You need to make sure you give them an entire list of all the improvements you have done to your home. Ideally, you're going to provide things like the date of that renovation or that improvement. You're going to give them the total cost. You're also going to provide things like what area was done, what you did. Give them the full picture. And the whole point in providing this list and really giving them detailed examples, and ideally any invoices or receipts if you have them, is to make sure the appraiser understands that just because the market or that area has your home, kind of guessed at a certain amount, doesn't mean that's really its true value, especially if you moved into the home and you've done significant improvements since then. You want to give them all of your details. Every project you've done to your home, you need to have it listed out with as much information as possible. Make sure your appraiser has that as they're walking through your home. And if you're wondering what sort of improvements are significant, honestly, I would list all of them. Everything from new flooring, what you've done to bathrooms, what you've done to the kitchen, if you've got a new AC unit, for example. Roofing, that's extremely important. Anything you may have done to the exterior. Maybe you've put a whole new facade on the outside of your house, or maybe you've upgraded your septic system. Anything that could possibly be of value to a homeowner, you want to include here because the appraiser does want to take things like that into consideration. And a word of caution when it comes to renovations and improvements on your home: don't overdo it. You always want to build or make improvements for your area. So if you're surrounded by $1 million homes, of course it's totally fine to go and put in a $50,000 or $60,000 kitchen. Not to say you'll get all of that money back, but that would be pretty typical for the homes in your area. Whereas spending $60,000 on a kitchen when homes are average price around $220,000 or $240,000 would be absolute insanity. You would not want to do that, and you're not going to see the returns that you want. That's money down the drain. So be very mindful of the types of renovations, but not only the types, how much you're willing to spend, because it can get out of hand very quickly. So pick the right materials, pick the right contractor for that budget. And the fifth and final thing that an appraiser is going to look at when they're valuing your home are its features and amenities. So what are some features and amenities that are popular in your neighborhood, for example? Does everybody on your street have a pool and maybe you don't? That could actually negatively impact your home's value. Does everybody have, an adjacent garage and you don't? Again, that's a feature that you're lacking. So what are some features and amenities that your home has that maybe are typical or maybe not typical for your area? If you are one of the few homes in the area with a pool, that's usually a very positive thing for your return. So again, they're going to look at features and amenities. They're going to look at everything from, do you have an outdoor pergola or a gazebo? Do you have a pool? Do you have a garage? Do you have a detached garage? Do you have a guest house? Do you have a big yard and nobody else does? These are all sorts of things that they're going to take into consideration when they're comparing your home to other homes on the market and trying to give your home a value. So keep that in mind. If you can add some nice features and amenities to your home at a relatively low cost, I definitely suggest you do it, especially if those are features that are in more demand in your area. So we know what appraisers are going to look at. So what are some renovations that you can tackle right now to increase your home's value that will also help your appraisal? By the way, if you're getting value out of this video, please give it a like. It would greatly help get this video out to more people. And also leave me a comment below. Which one of these has sort of surprised you? Did you realize that this is how an appraisal works? Did you realize this is what appraisers are looking at specifically? And also, always be aware that you can always leave me a comment on something you want to see in the future. So if there's a topic you want me to cover on this channel, please let me know in the comments below. I'll be happy to make a video to help you out. So knowing what an appraiser is going to be looking at when they're valuing your home, I have come up with 7 things that I think are always worth your time and your money if you're able to do it to increase your home's value. The first and foremost is to update your kitchen. Now, updating your kitchen can mean a minor renovation and some paint, or it can be a major overhaul. It really depends on you, your budget, and what you're trying to achieve here. I would definitely say at minimum, if your counters are not solid surface, you at least want solid surface counters. That's pretty standard now. And also look at your cabinets. If your cabinets are frankly the dated cherry color or the orangey veneer, I don't even know what to call that exactly, that is a dated look for your kitchen. So try to either replace the cabinets or simply paint them. Painting them, if you do it yourself, will definitely take some more time and some elbow grease, but the end result may be very well worth it. And also do some minor updates like painting in your kitchen if it's not a neutral color, and also replacing some old and dingy faucets or fixtures if you have older dated materials. For example, if your sink is one of those really basic renter stainless steel ones with a really plain old faucet, replace it. Do something a little nicer. Same thing with the hardware on your cabinets. If you have some dated looking hardware, just replacing the hardware and the fixtures can make a world of difference. And this includes the lighting. Make sure there's ample lighting in your kitchen. So find ways to add light, even if it's just as simple as removing the shades or blinds from your kitchen window if you have them on there, just to let a little more natural light in. Replacing older fixtures that maybe dim the lighting and make it more of an orange glow instead of something that allows as much light to project through the room as possible. The second renovation that's definitely worth your time, the bathrooms, specifically the master bathroom. Everybody knows that kitchens and baths sell homes, but why is that? That's because when we think about our typical buyer, we're thinking about what areas of the home they're more likely to use. What areas are they spending more time in? Well, quite frankly, families spend a lot of time in the kitchen typically. They spend a lot of time in the living room watching TV, but as the homeowner, they often spend a lot of time in their master suite. So if you can give them a really nice, updated, clean bathroom, that will add value to your home. And not only will your appraiser notice it, but so will your potential buyers. The third renovation that's definitely worth it, flooring. If you have old dated flooring, replace it. And to be fair, if you have wood flooring, that is something that is still very desirable on the market. You can simply just remove the old stain on your floor. You can have them sanded and prepared and completely redone. Because they're wood floors, you can actually do that without ever having to rip them up and replace them. It still costs a bit of money, but you can bring them into the modern 21st century, especially if they're older and if they have a more dated look to them. Right now, the big thing is a matte finish. So if they are really glossy, just taking off that gloss and restaining them with a matte finish can make a world of a difference. Number 4, invest in curb appeal. We've already talked about the importance of curb appeal and what an appraiser is looking at, but definitely put some time and some energy here because again, this is the very first impression for not only your buyers, but also the appraiser himself. So Make sure when you're doing those updates, when you're making sure that the lawn is well manicured and you're adding some color or fresh flowers or a coat of paint, you're also taking care of those maintenance items. Again, if there are cracks, holes, anything that looks unsightly, you need to take care of that, especially if it's minor stuff like cobwebs. Just get rid of all the cobwebs so that nobody sees that you clearly never touched this part of the house. Number 5 is square footage. If you can add square footage to your home at a reasonable price, you're almost always going to get that money back, at least the majority of that money. Now, depending on what you're doing with that square footage can definitely change things. I'm not talking about adding like an entire second floor to your home, and you also don't want to overbuild for your area. So definitely keep that in mind. But maybe you have an area that's already partially enclosed and it would just take you $10,000 or $15,000 to really close it in and make it a functional room and livable square footage in your home. That could be well worth the money in the long run. And kind of going off number 5, bedrooms. The more bedrooms, the more likely you are to add value. Now, arguably, after you hit a certain number of bedrooms, it doesn't really make a difference. But for example, if you're trying to appeal to a certain group of buyers, having a certain number of bedrooms is a criteria usually on their list. Think about it. When people are telling the realtor what they want in a home, they usually start with the bedrooms. They tell the realtor how many bedrooms at minimum they want. So if you currently have a 3-bedroom home, adding a 4th bedroom not only can add an average of $10,000 to $15,000 to your home value, it can also mean a whole new world of potential buyers and meaning that you're actually in a higher bracket for your market. So again, if it's possible and it's feasible without breaking the bank, if you can somehow make a 4th bedroom, I would recommend it. And again, I think after 4 bedrooms, it's not maybe as lucrative, but if you're going from a 2 or a 3 bedroom and you're moving up a bedroom size, definitely could be worth the money. And last but not least, the easiest renovation / remodel you can do to update your home, I always say paint the walls. This is such a minor thing and it just usually costs you a little bit of time and a little bit of money, but it can make a world of a difference. I still have a few walls in our home that are this light green color that I absolutely hate, and I knew I hated it when we bought the house, but I knew that I could see past that and I knew that I could paint them. So now all of my walls, for the most part, are a nice soft white color, very neutral, very easy to match with whatever I want to put in that room, and it's not an eyesore. So if you have some crazy colors, definitely recommend a very neutral palette so that you can actually appeal to as many buyers as possible. And again, you don't want to set off any alarms to your appraiser, and you don't want to call too much attention to your walls. You want them to have an overall feeling of cleanliness, of a home that's really well cared for and maintained, and you want it to feel luxurious. I've never really seen a home that feels super luxurious with fire engine red walls. It just feels dated, quite honestly. So definitely spend some time and money painting those walls. Thank you so much for joining today. If you got any value, don't forget to give it a like and leave me a comment below on your favorite tip or thing that you've learned in this video. And as always, I will catch you on the next video.